Well, the election is coming up. Is it a month from tomorrow? I think maybe it is.
Yes.
And Jim Haadsma and Dave Morgan are both here. They are both running to be your state House representative in the 62nd district. Gentlemen, good morning. Nice to have you here today.
Good morning, Tim. Thanks for having us.
Jim? Yep.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Tim.
Dave,
Glad
yep.
to be back.
Well, for heaven's sakes, was I right? A month from tomorrow?
4 weeks from tomorrow, specifically. 28 days from tomorrow.
Wow, and we got a lot to decide in the election, some Michigan ballot proposals, and maybe a little later on I might ask you to weigh in on those, because I think it says a little bit about where you're at and you know what you're thinking, and as far as some of these ballot proposals. But I think maybe we'll start out. I should have flipped a coin to see who would start, but
we have been there. Just last evening we did a debate, and
Jim's two
the
for two.
was he's correct. I'm 2 for 2 on the coin flips.
So you've done a few of them. Yeah.
Well, last night was the first one we've done.
Oh, was it? Okay. All right. Where was that?
Down at the Axis Vision studio. Bishop Tino Smith, in his Axis Vision program, conducted an interview of each of us.
So I imagine that'll air a few times on Access Vision for people who want to see it. And I think you can even download those. And, of course, we'll also have our little discussion available for people to review a little bit later on, too. But what I thought we would do this hour, just get a chance to kind of know you guys a little bit and find out, what you stand for, what your differences are. And let's just maybe start out. Tell us a little bit about your candidacy and your campaign and what you're about. Who wants to go first?
I guess I'll go first, since the coin flip allowed me to defer and go secondly last evening a couple of times. My name is Jim Haadsma. I and Betsy have 4 young adult children. Tess, who is a clerk with the Michigan Supreme Court, Stuart, who is a product designer for GM, and John and Jerry, who are presently undergraduates at Albion College. I'm a lawyer with McCroskey Law. I've practiced law for 34 years, and the last 31 years with McCroskey Law, where I've been a partner since 1992. That's a regional firm, and I staffed the Battle Creek office, where I came down and opened that office in 1994 here in Battle Creek. I'm a member of many not-for-profits in the community, not-for-profits like the Arts Center, the Salvation Army, the Haven. I've been a member of the Calhoun County Board of Commissioners for 8 years, between 2009 and 2016, and certainly enjoyed my opportunity to serve the county in my role as a county commissioner in those years. I am running in great part because I love to advocate for people. It's my profession. I would like to advocate for those members of the 62nd District. I think we need some fresh voices in Lansing. I don't think we need proteges of the same voices that we've had represent us for many years. I think that we have more opportunity to do new things when we do have newer voices and other party voices, as opposed to the same party which has been in office for 8 years' time. I would, if I were elected, work hard on ensuring that we bring good jobs and strong economy back to Battle Creek, which I think is flagging in relation to some parts of the state. I remember a couple of years ago when I visited Canton Township, and I was surprised I was even in the same state, given the number of housing starts I saw in Canton Township compared to what we see here in Battle Creek and in Albion. Want to make sure we bring jobs which ensure that there's a focus on advanced manufacturing and a focus on renewable energy here to Battle Creek, and especially to our Fort Custer Industrial Park. I want to focus on our infrastructure. I think the Republicans have been in power times 8 years now in terms of having the governor's mansion, the state senate. State Senate's actually been in Republican hands since 1983. The State House, and a majority on the State Supreme Court. And during that time, they haven't done, in my opinion, a good job in terms of our infrastructure, in terms of our roads, in terms of our bridges, in terms of our water. Flint, parchment, PFAS in the waters, just some examples. And from what I can perceive, there's very little plan on changing anything in the immediate future, at least any realistic plan of changing anything. So it's just more kick the can. I would want to focus on K-12 education, specifically K-12 public education. I think our schools, Battle Creek Public Schools, the Lakeview Public Schools, Penfield Public Schools, all need an infusion of support from our state legislature. I would take a look at modifying the foundational grant allowance depending upon each individual district's needs. I'm very much focused on higher education, higher public education, to make certain that our kids can afford to go to colleges like Michigan State University, where I attended, and Wayne State University, where I attended law school. I want to make sure too that we have an additional focus beyond just education, infrastructure, and economy on healthcare. And I want to make sure that the healthcare coverage advances we've made in the last several years aren't taken away by some new policies of a different administration. Over 600,000 people have been allowed to get health care and enroll in Medicaid by reason of the Medicaid expansion in 2014. I've seen firsthand as a lawyer how beneficial that is to many clients, and I think it's beneficial to our communities because those people, absent preventative medical care provided by Medicaid expansion, would often be sickly, might die, end up in long-term care facilities. So I look forward to having the opportunity to serve the voters of the 62nd District in the Michigan State Legislature next year.
All right, Jim Haadsma. Dave Morgan?
All right. Thank you, Tim. I'm Dave Morgan, running for the 62nd District here in Calhoun County. I'm father of one, Jaden. She's a middle school student at Lakeview, 7th grade. Plays on the Lakeview 7th grade basketball team, which is doing very well. They were city champs, Tim, just so we know. Family history. Our family goes back into the 1800s. My great-grandfather, Benjamin Morgan, he was a farmer out in Penfield Township, Penfield and Bedford Townships, actually. Penfield Road was named after him. One side was a horse farm, one side was a dairy farm. Camley Living Center, which is there now, was his home. So we have a long history here in the county. Currently, I'm Penfield Township Supervisor. I've really served in Penfield my whole life. Penfield Lions Club. I was a coach out there. Sports official throughout the area. I'm also honored to be a veteran. I served in the United States Air Force Reserves, the Michigan Air National Guard. Served in Desert Storm as well. And for anybody out there listening who's a veteran, I'd like to thank you for your service as well. Small business owner here in the area. I coached at Harper Creek, St. Phil. Throughout the area, I coached over 30 teams, basically in summer sports. Member of the Battle Creek Amateur Sports Hall of Fame as well. I want to run basically to keep our comeback alive. I think the Republican Party's done exceptionally well. I think we need to continue the comeback, and that's why I'm running.
Well, and Jim, you brought up infrastructure. You thought that the Republicans have not done well in terms of infrastructure and specifically roads. And I know you've both been out campaigning a lot, door to door, and I'm going to bet that you hear about the roads a lot in your travels as you talk to constituents of the 62nd District. And by the way, that's pretty much the top half of Calhoun County. The northern half, including most of the city of Battle Creek and that area. The 63rd kind of wraps down around below it, but we're talking about the kind of the northern half of Calhoun County. Jim, what do we need to do differently to fund our roads? And is Public Act 51 okay, or do we need to revise that completely? Do we need to tweak it? What needs to happen if we're going to do a better job than we have?
Tim, first of all, you're absolutely correct. I've been all over the district. I probably know every road, street, court in the 62nd District. I've done it on foot. I think it's the best way to know the district, to talk to people at doors, to become someone that they know that they can rely upon, that they can contact if they need some specific issue. It's interesting, when I started going door to door in relation to this campaign in March 2018, I had lots of questions about roads, and it seems like most people were focused on roads. If you recall, last winter we had a remarkable freeze-thaw kind of experience, and I think the roads were just ravaged by reason of that experience, more so than they've been in recent winters. More recently, what I'm hearing a lot more about is integrity of our water sources. Water's life. I'm hearing a lot about water, specifically outdoors, in context of PFAS, polyfluoroalkyl substances in water sources in places as proximal to us as Springfield. And when it was before Oscoda, before Rockford, places that are kind of far away from here, it didn't seem as important perhaps, but when it's right on your doorstep, then it becomes very important. And people are very concerned about the water that they drink, and are very concerned about what we're doing to make sure that there's a standard that's established, and what we're doing to remediate any water issues. In relation to the road issues, without question, we need to get back to having world-class roads. We need to prioritize funding of roads and bridges in our state, not allow money that's supposed to go to roads and bridges to get lateraled off to some other source. We need to make sure that our roads and our bridges are functional, and people aren't bending rims and busting axles going over our roads. Act 51 probably does need to be tweaked because, well, if something hasn't worked for a long duration of time, I don't think it's been working for many years, certainly not in this decade, it might need to be revisited.
How would you fix it?
I would ensure that there was more involvement by state legislators, and probably infusion of more cash dedicated to roads issues in relation to roads and bridges.
So then you take cash from somewhere else, or raise a tax, or some sort of a user fee, or toll, or gas tax. I mean, where does that money come from if we're going to allocate more toward it?
I think we have gas taxes that were exacted upon 2015 legislation. We have to make sure, again, it's not used for some other purpose. We have to use it smartly. In Calhoun County, we've used it smartly by collaboration historically with Jackson County. We have to be smarter with the resources we have, and we have to be absolutely assuring to voters that we're going to lockbox that money and not allow it to be used for different sources than roads and bridges, which, again, if you've been out in places like Marengo Township and Marshall Township, you know how sorely our roads and bridges need work right now.
Dave Morgan, Public Act 51, roads, what's your solution? What do we need to do?
Well, Act 51 absolutely needs to be looked at. It's Act 51 because it was created in 1951. Townships have been left out. We can see that out at Emmett Township, just how bad their roads are, no offense to their community. But in Penfield, under the previous supervisor, he started our road project. I've continued it, and we're finishing that up. So if you come out to Penfield, you can see the difference when there is an infusion of money into the area. And now we're working on our primary roads. I think we're one of the leaders as far as getting our primary roads done too within our township. I agree with Jim on the part that the water infrastructure is very important as well. We've been very proactive out in Penfield as far as that goes too. And we've invested quite a bit of money into our water system. We have one of the few water systems in the area, as well as Battle Creek. So it is extremely important. Act 51, one of the situations we have issues are that we have a lot of, you have local roads, you have county roads, you have state roads, and federal roads. So we have them broke down into all these categories where money can't flow between them because of the laws. So I think if somehow we could bring them together, so if we had an abundance of money at the federal level, maybe bring it into the state level and be able to fix roads here. Local and county roads basically come under the same entity, but townships need to have a say too. Right now we have very little say.
Why is it that Penfield Township's roads are in better shape than Emmett or Leroy Township or some of these things?
We were able to pass a millage, which many townships can't, because we have a fairly large population base in Penfield. So when we pass, the tax out in Penfield, it's spread out amongst many more people. But if you go out to a township like Convis, Lee, Sheridan, that's not the case. There's fewer residents. They'll have to pay much more.
Yeah, and so a special assessment or a millage
Right.
looks pretty big to some of these rural townships. Jim Haadsma, you served on the county commission for a long, long time. How do we make this, how do we even this out? Because we do have this problem, as you alluded to, rural roads and the rural townships in this county are in bad shape.
Well, no question, I think township residents have to step forward and do something like that which they did in Penfield in 2014 and pass a roads millage. Do something like what the trustees did in Bedford Township in 2016 and pass a per parcel assessment. If you go out to Bedford, their roads are much better than the ones in Emmett or Marengo or Marshall Townships as well. Albion Township, for example, has a road millage, and their roads are much better. So I think it's important that residents have a stake in their roads. It's very important to the value of their real properties. It's very important to bringing in infrastructure like factories. If roads are good, if a township like Penfield passes a road millage, for example, there's a greater county local share in relation to Penfield. So we have to revisit 51 to make sure that it's not so that, say, Penfield and Bedford and Albion townships are getting all the monies and all the other townships like Burlington are looking like third-party roads, third world roads, excuse me.
Yeah, I want to, on top of what Jim said, absolutely, townships have been left out of the mix, and it is extremely important we get that. They're the closest municipality to the people, and we deal with roads every day. We deal with road issues, so it is very important to get the townships involved, to get money down to the townships as well.
Jim Haadsma is here, Democrat for 62nd State House seat. Dave Morgan is also here, Republican for 62nd State House seat. Jim, you brought up the PFAS and the groundwater concerns and all of that stuff. State Senator Mike Knopfs has introduced a bill, probably be his last one, and we had him in here the other day talking about it. This would basically raise some funds to clean up some of these sites and also preemptively try to prevent these kinds of things. And the funding would come from dumping fees. Right now, a lot of states and even Canada dump their trash in the state of Michigan because our rate is very low. He wants to raise that rate and then take that money and use it to address these issues. What do you think of that idea, and what's your idea if you have one to address the funding for this?
Tipping fees are very low in Michigan, and as a consequence, we have trash from all around the Midwest and even from Canada come into our community in Convis Township and dump trash. And certainly the reason for that is the tipping fees are disproportionately modest, minuscule compared to other states around our region. We need to raise the tipping fees and ensure first that we keep this trash out of Michigan from other communities and other countries. And two, although I am unfamiliar with the specifics of the proposed bill, I support it. I think that without question that could be used as a resource to fund some of the PFAS study and PFAS remediation, and it needs to be done quickly. So I would certainly wish to study that bill further, and it sounds like a very ingenious way to raise some money to deal with an important public health issue that's before us right now.
What do you think of the idea, Dave?
Well, Senator Knopfs has been great for our community. He's done a wonderful job. He is possibly ending his career here as a politician. He's been a great representative, as Dr. Bison has, who currently holds a seat. He's going to be our next senator, and he'll do a wonderful job up there. I agree something needs to be done. I think first, we don't have a revenue problem. I think we have a spending problem in Michigan. And before I look at adding more mandates and more taxes and fees to the residents of Michigan, I would personally like to look at our spending. I think there's money to be had around the state if we constantly look at programs that have been in place for many, many years. We have to look at everything that we're doing, try to lower the cost for Michigan taxpayers, not increase them. But if this is what it takes to get the job done, after that's done, sure, I'd be in agreement to it. But I really think, a lot of our taxpayers, our citizens, are really pushing it now, especially our senior citizens. They're struggling on a day-to-day basis, and we need to do whatever we can to lower their taxes and lower their drain on their pocketbooks before we add any more mandates or costs.
Talk a little bit about who's supporting you guys. Talk about some of your endorsements. Dave Morgan, you want to start off?
Well, we have a variety of endorsements. Mostly, probably the two most important. Well, they're all important. I don't want to say that, but the Michigan Chamber of Commerce, which is pretty much the oversight of all of our businesses, big business in Michigan. A great organization that's done a lot of good here in our area with Cara Beer and throughout the state. And then what's unique, we also have the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, which is probably the most powerful union for labor in our area and throughout the state. They've come together and endorsed us, which is very unique and very rare. And that says a lot about our campaign, because we're about bringing people together and doing what's best for our community. That includes labor and that includes business. We have to put them both in a position to be successful. One can't survive without the other. So by bringing them together, it's a win-win for the community. It's also a win for both of them. We have the Fraternal Order of Police, the biggest organization for police officers, and many, many others that are on our website. Of course, Dr. Bizon, State Representative Bizon, Senator Knopf, many of the county commissioners as well.
Okay. And Jim Haadsma, who's endorsing your campaign?
Thank you, Tim. First, in relation to the needs of seniors in our community, absolutely they're up against it. And one of the reasons is because of the senior pension tax, and I would repeal that pension tax. And it's important to keep in mind that the Republicans were in power in all branches of government when that senior pension tax was imposed. In relation to those supporting my campaign, teachers, American Federation of Teachers and the Michigan Education Association, labor unions like the sheet metal workers, the SMART labor organization, which is sheet metal, air, and rail transport, League of Conservation Voters, Sierra Club, skilled trades organizations like IBEW and operating engineers, Michigan Association of Justice, firefighters, and Police Officers Association of Michigan. Without question, I think the array of trade unions and professional unions like the teachers supporting my campaign is tens of thousands ahead in numbers and power in relation to any singular union of which Mr. Morgan is a member endorsing his campaign.
And I mean, that's a fair point. Dave Morgan, you are a member of the Teamsters Union, have worked with them a great deal.
I'm actually a member of the International Brotherhood of Railroad Engineers, which they've also endorsed us, as well as the Teamsters, as well as 200 individual labor union members.
And what was their reasoning when, because usually, I mean, let's face it, in years past, labor unions endorsed Democrats and did not endorse Republicans. You yourself said it was unique to get those endorsements. What were their reasons?
Oh, it's very unique. And Mr. Hoffa released a statement yesterday just about this race and the importance of it. What's really unique is we have many members who are unionized throughout the state that run for office. They all don't get endorsed. I think it's unique in the fact that I do bring people together. We've seen it at Penfield. Many people on here know that I was a Democrat in the past 3 years ago, approximately 3 years ago, and a Republican. So I understand the issues on both sides, what's important to a person who identifies as a Democrat, same as a Republican. And we've got to bring people together to solve these problems. And business is extremely important. Labor can't survive without big business or small business. They're very important as well. Businesses don't survive without good labor. By bringing them together, I'm also the legislative rep for the International Brotherhood of Railroad Engineers. And so I've been at the table for many, many years, and I understand the issues.
We're talking to the two candidates for 62nd State House, Dave Morgan and Jim Haadsma. I want to talk about the campaign a little bit. You guys have been pounding the pavement now for quite a while. I think, didn't you announce Jim back in January?
December 2017.
December, so I was close. And Dave, when did you jump into this?
I think it was about March.
Yeah, okay. So you've been talking to a lot of people and everything else, putting out campaign literature, which I've got. Now, I've seen some TV commercials, and yeah, frankly, I was a little surprised. They seemed, your commercials, Jim, seemed a bit negative. What would you say to that?
I haven't seen any. I don't have any control over those. And I doubt that Dave has any control over the ones that the Republican Party from Lansing puts out for him. So one thing people need to understand is the candidates like Dave and I really don't have any connectedness more often than not. I certainly don't, with commercials that are tactful of the other candidate. So I haven't seen that. I don't have any connection with that. As I appreciate it, it is put out by the Democratic Party, but I have seen some that aren't truthful. I haven't seen them on television, but I've seen one somebody sent to me, put out by the Republican Party. And I've forthrightly said, I don't think Dave has any connectedness with that. I think that's put out by the Republican Party. And
you guys don't have any say in your party's commercials at all?
There's no coordination between the parties and the candidates, no.
I think if there were a say, neither one of us would wish that to be unleashed. It's something that's put on by the parties, and those are the professionals who think that they know more about that which the consumer wants than we do.
Well, I did see one on TV, and I wish I had recorded it and studied it a bit more, but the gist of it was, Dave, that, it seemed to infer that you were using your position as Penfield Township Supervisor for your personal gain.
Well, that's hardly untrue. I know what you're talking about. They said something about our rental ordinance, which is very intrusive on everybody that lives in our township. Battle Creek's seen the problems here. Personal property rights are very important. One of the biggest assets anybody has is their home. And the last thing we need is for government to come in and try to take over as much as they possibly can. As far as the rental ordinance goes, the state has guidelines in place, about 62 pages of regulations that protect landlords and protect tenants. And there's no reason for a township to come in and add more regulations to people on top of that at a high cost to the taxpayers of Penfield. And the city's seeing it. It was unneeded. It wasn't just myself, it was our board. We passed it to eliminate it.
Okay. Jim Haadsma, what is the biggest issue, and not just the biggest overall issue for the state, but I mean the biggest thing that you think you could do as a state rep for our area? And let's face it, we're a little behind the eight ball. We're working out of it. There are a lot of great things happening in this community right now. But as you alluded to, you went to another township over on the other side of the state, saw a big difference there. What can you do to help the 62nd District and its citizens as a state rep?
Well, first, Tim, I think there is a real need for rental ordinance regulation in Penfield. I've knocked doors all over the 62nd District, and there are parts of Penfield which certainly do need rental ordinance regulation. The area that's right abutting Battle Creek along Northeast Capitol, the area under the bridge near the stockyard. So I disagree that there's not a need for regulation in Penfield. I think sometimes when we diss regulation, we'd like to bring us back to some gold rush of 1849 and anything goes. And I think regulation sometimes is beneficial. It prevents bad things like PFAS and lead in the water from happening. In terms of labor issues, I want to focus on raising the unemployment compensation rate when workers unfortunately become unemployed, having that index to inflation, extending it back to 26 weeks after it was retracted to 20 weeks during the last 8 years of total Republican control. I want to tweak some workers' disability compensation rights, which have been significantly diminished in this administration. I want to take a look at right to work because I think it's eviscerated our unions, and I disagree that unions just do really well when big business runs things. I think we have to have a strong, robust labor union to work with a strong, robust business. If I were elected, would work very hard to bring, I would wish to be on the Appropriations Committee to bring jobs back, money and jobs back to Battle Creek and Albion. I'd like to be on the Justice Committee to make sure we take a look at issues like cash bond and the requirement of cash bond and what we can do to ensure that there's justice for all and it's just not a slogan. I think that without question, we need now more than ever some new voices in Lansing because it's not working. It hasn't worked. I don't believe in the comeback because it hasn't trickled down to all of us. It's affected some people, but many of us here in Battle Creek, and I see them all the time, many of us in Albion are not participating in that. We're not beneficiaries of the stock market going over $26,000. So I'd wish to ensure that we have more opportunity to attain the American dream for more people in the 62nd District, more people in the 62nd District, so we can look more like Canton Township or Grand Blanc or some other parts that are quite affluent in our state.
Dave?
Well, and I think, as we just heard, what the Democratic Party believes in is more taxes, more regulations, being more involved in your life. I disagree. And the Michigan comeback, we can see it in the numbers. Since Governor Snyder took office, more than 500,000 private sector jobs have returned over the last 7 years. We have the lowest unemployment rate in 17 years. Business climate ranking went from 40th to 12th. For labor to survive, which I've been endorsed by, you need to have business. If they all flock like they did under Governor Granholm when she raised the business tax, there are no jobs. So therefore, unions are irrelevant. We can't have that. We can't return to those years where we decide we want to raise business tax, penalize the citizens by raising their taxes, more regulations like the needless rental ordinance out in Penfield, and I believe in Battle Creek as well. Government needs to get out of people's lives. They can survive. Michigan's done very well under Republican leadership. Under Governor Granholm, it was a disaster. Albion, which Jim's talking about, lost their hospital. They've lost their school district. Now we're seeing people come back. Oak Lawn Hospital just announced they're coming back into Albion. We're on a comeback. We've got to continue that.
It's Jim Haadsma and Dave Morgan, candidates for your 62nd State House seat, and we've got a couple of minutes left for each of you. And Dave, why don't you start? Tell us why we should vote for you.
Well, I think once again, going back to we have both labor and business supporting us. Many people in the community, many of our elected officials, we can look at what's happened in Penfield. We're doing very well out there. You haven't seen any controversy in Penfield, and with the rental ordinance being gone, you can talk to any realtor, which we've been endorsed by the Michigan Realtors as well. Our property values have went up. It's very hard to find a house in Penfield now. So things are going very well. We need to continue the Michigan comeback. The Democratic Party is more about mandates as a whole, being more involved in your life, more taxes, more requirements. Michigan's done very, very well under Governor Snyder, who's a local person, a Lakeview graduate. As I said, we've created 500,000 private sector jobs. Michigan's also the #1 Great Lakes state for job creation, #6 in America. That all happened under Governor Snyder. We didn't see that under Governor Granholm. We need to protect our Second Amendment rights. But most of all, government cannot solve every problem in your life. We can't get involved in every aspect of your life. We need to lower rates. Our seniors are struggling. They're living day to day. That's one of the saddest things I have as an elected official is talking to a senior who's having a hard time paying a water bill because taxes are too high. We need to do what we can to put them in a position to be successful. businesses and labor. It can happen if we come together.
Jim?
Thank you, Tim. It's interesting that Dave talks about Granholm disparagingly today when he was very supportive of Granholm just a few years ago. There's no road to Damascus epiphany in this case. There's no explanation that Dave can articulate for why he became a Republican other than a Democrat.
Well, I actually can,
Well,
if we have more time.
We can come back and do that on another occasion. But I think what's important is you need someone who is going to be strong in his values and strong in relation to his ability to discern answers to problems. We don't want someone who's going to be twisting in the wind and making decisions because leadership of a party is going to tell him or her what to do. We don't need someone who's going to be twisting the wind and allow lobbyists to wine and dine him or her and do what lobbyists wish him or her to do. And I think that's a great temptation in Lansing. And I would be someone who would vote the way that my conscience told me to vote and the way that my community directed me to vote, rather than what a party leader might tell me to do, or rather than what a lobbyist might tell me to do, and then threaten to cut off some funding in some future way or cut off some food. So I will fight for 62nd District to make sure we have appropriations directed here, and we're going to have the best water, the best infrastructure, the best economy with the best jobs that we can bring the 62nd House District.
Gentlemen, we're out of time. We'll have you back on the 29th, and we'll take it up from where we left off.
All right.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.